to the 20, to the 15, the 10, 5. Touchdown. A 50-yard return.
Irvin. Out in the great Steven Jackson.
How you doing, man?
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the LeRoy Irvin Show. LeRoy is a 3-time All-Pro corner and 1-time All-Pro punt returner who still holds the record for most punt return yards in a single game to this day. I'm your host, Jimmy, and alongside myself, we have our analyst, Coach B. And today we have another amazing guest. He is the Rams' all-time rushing leader, 2-time All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, the one and only Steven Jackson. Let's get rolling.
Steven Jackson, I'm glad I didn't have a time for you.
Right. Yeah, you go after my knees, wouldn't you, LeRoy, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just like Christian Okoye. I went after Christian Okoye's knees, and I tried to get on the side of him so he would just go straight and I could cut him. He turned to me. I was forced to have to tackle him. He separated my shoulder.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, I bet some people were scared to tackle you too. But really just want to start in the beginning with you, Steven. Like, thinking back to when you were young, like where did the love of the game come for you? Was football always something you wanted to do growing up?
I would say no. It was something that initially my mom and dad. Well, I would say more my mom than my dad. My mom tried to steer me away from it, and then my dad, convinced her to let me decide. And I chose football. I've been playing football. I started at the age of 7, played in the Little League, Pop Warner, and then from on all the way to the end of my NFL career, I didn't miss a training camp. I guess from 7 years to 32, so quite a length of time of playing the game. But it was actually my getaway. It was my sanctuary. It was the place that, regardless if I had homework, if I was having a good day, a bad day, it was a place that I could just really just forget about today's worries and just really hone in and focus on the game and being a good teammate.
Definitely. I want to talk a little bit about the draft. Going into the draft, you were projected to be around the top 10-ish area. Once the top 10 came and went, you wanted the Cowboys to draft you, right, at 22. They eventually traded that pick to the Bills, and the Rams trade up 2 picks later and take you. Can you describe how you and your family were feeling in that moment, kind of being disappointed you didn't get taken by the Cowboys, but then getting that phone call, being in St. Louis for 9 years?
Yeah, I would say, to your point, the NFL draft in '04, it was really heavily loaded with the quarterbacks and receivers that year. In my draft class, I had Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and Phillip Rivers. Those are the first 3 off the board there. Then you have some great receivers as well. So it was a time of year in the early 2000s where the trend that has been consistently going since then. A lot of teams feel they can get their running backs later in the draft or find that value guy maybe in free agency who's looking to, put more wins up and add to his wallet. So it was one of those situations. I was just caught. It happens every year to someone. The year after me in 2005, you had the great Aaron Rodgers, right? Same thing. He slides to 24 like myself. So it just happens. It just happened that it was me. Now, if you had to slide and you had to go in the back half of the first round, you want to go to a team that's established. And I was lucky enough to go to the St. Louis Rams, where we had, our Hall of Fame running back at the time, Marshall Faulk. We had, Orlando Pace still in the O-line, and you had the great receivers and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. So going in, you might not go top 10 or to a team that your family rooted for all your life. But if I had to go somewhere and it had to, be in shared locker room, I had some great wisdom. So I lucked out in that part.
Definitely.
Sure.
Hey, let me ask you something, Steven. How many rings you got? How many rings the Cowboys got?
Cowboys, none since I've been drafted, right? All of it happened in the early 90s. So you're right. To your point, you're right.
Oh, man. I want to ask you like about your, when you're going through high school and you're making your college decision, recruitment process and things like that. You're coming out of high school from Las Vegas. What sold you on Oregon State? Because that's a big leap to take, especially coming from Vegas. And what were some of the other schools that were recruiting you?
I would say, Oregon State actually found me, and it was one of those decisions that kind of naturally happened and it made itself more so than me pick and choose from where I wanted to go. Uh, to boil down the country, everybody east of the Mississippi wanted me to play defense. And everybody west of the Mississippi, I'm sure it was easier for them to see me scouting wise, especially back then. You didn't have some of these softwares and these sites that you have now for these younger kids. But everyone west of the Mississippi felt comfortable with me playing running back, but it was always a question of the talent I was going against. Seeing Las Vegas wasn't known for putting out football talent like some of the bigger states, right? So we have all these things questioned in mind, and then Oregon State was up and coming. They had a head coach named Dennis Erickson at the time. He was known for his time in Miami Hurricanes. He also had some NFL experience. So, make a long story short, great coach. I knew he had the connections and the knowledge of getting me to the next level, but my talents allowed for that to happen. And then you add into the point that it was a senior running back named Ken Simonton. It was just, it was a match made in heaven. The right coach, the right time with the outgoing running back. It just made a lot of sense for me.
Sweet.
Definitely.
Hey, Steven, let's be honest. Let's just be honest for a second. How tall are you?
6'2".
How much you weigh?
Coming out then, I was 215. I mean, high schooler,
Yeah.
right?
And you ran 10,600 meters. And you
Right.
ran 10,600 meters.
Yeah.
You belong in the NFL.
Appreciate it.
Go
My son's running track right now, and he just learned that. He was like, "Dad, you running 10.5, 10.6?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "I got some work to do."
Going off of
right.
that, like, when did you know like you had a real shot to be like? I mean, that size at that age is like you were bigger than most of the people, maybe other than linemen. Like, when was that process like for you? Like, okay, like I actually have a real shot here to make it into at least into college and then the NFL.
I would say, the beginning of my senior year, start getting all these letters from different universities showing interest, and you're like, "Wow, didn't quite know many scouts are aware of my talents here." So I would say, beginning of my senior year, start getting a ton of envelopes in different universities around the country. And then as we got into, late fall, the real interest of who was showing up to the house really started to snowball. But like anything, couple of schools offered me, and that made put other schools in urgency. You had your Southern California schools, but they come on late, right? And then 20 years ago in the early 2000s, that was actually when they had it taken a step back, and the Northwest was kind of dominating the Pac-10 at that time. So it's the ebbs and flows of recruiting, but I would say my senior year started getting a lot of interest because teams started actually offering me, which then made other schools probably find a sense of urgency.
Sweet.
In your early days with the Rams, you kind of hit on it already, but you had some dudes on that team, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Falk, Orlando Pace. What do you think the biggest factor was that you guys couldn't really get over the hump of 500?
Hmm. I was, looking back at that time, I think it was some controversy with amongst our coaching staff and our ownership. I think at that point there were some power struggles. They were probably looking to see if they're going to go in a new direction. Um, the team had prior to 2004 had made the NFC Championship twice. I want to say the Super Bowl twice as well, right? So win one and they lost one. So the standard had been set and had been to a new level. And with Coach Mike March being head of it, I think there were some differences of opinion. I wasn't in the room to quite say that was what happened, but it was definitely something that was above the locker room. You could tell.
Makes sense. Sure.
Sounds kind of like your experience, Leroy, back then. Lots going on in the background.
I
Did
think
we
it's
lose
a
him?
little a
It was
little
about the money
eggy.
when I played.
Yep.
It was all about the Benjamins. And the Rams didn't have much money, so we were one of the lowest paid teams in the highest market.
Yep.
Show me the money.
Exactly.
Steven, hey, I was talking to Bruce Tolan, the agent, and I told him what my first contract was. It was $310,000 for 4 years. I got $40,000 signing bonus, 45,000, 55,000. I was all pro, 35,000. I was all pro, and 100,000. Different time. No salary cap. They didn't need one.
Were you playing your career? Was it before free agency?
See, yes, before free agency, when we were slaves, we could, I played out my contract. I had no contract, right? None. And the Rams said, "LeRoy, you either take this deal or go home." And that's how it was back then. You couldn't move even if you didn't have a contract. People say, "Well," so then when you get a contract and you start playing well, you want to renegotiate. Say, "Why'd you sign?"
Right, right,
I
right.
was forced to sign.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah,
Every time.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess kind of
Yeah.
rolling off of that, going into the 2008 season, you held out. So really interested in just learning your thought process through that experience, like what was going on. Like, obviously you were one of the best running backs in the league at the time, not the best. So I'm just really like, how did that process start, and what was like your feelings through it?
I knew always that playing the position that any given play you can lose your season, and if you have real bad luck, it could be your career. Two pivotal things I will say helped me make those decisions on like being really hard on the money. Um, my my sophomore year in college, going back to my college days, Willis McGahee blows up his knee in a bowl game. It really affected me. It's the reason why I actually forewent my senior year and decided to go pro after my junior year. Right, you witness that live on TV. You like, whoa, I don't want that to be my story as well. That was one of the main things, drivers. And then the second thing was I started already noticing a trend in the NFL. It was already going to running backs by committee. You had guys like Sean Alexander, Edgerrin James. They were getting a little long in the tooth as far as running back, and you could tell that free agency for them wasn't like it had been, some years previous for other running backs that came before us. So looking at those two things, having witnessed the Willis McGahee thing, and then also noticing the trend in the NFL, how guys were going into free agency, not getting the top dollars, you all hope you would. I knew that the second bite at the apple is not your rookie deal, and everyone's not going to be lucky to make a third and a fourth contract. That second contract had to be the one that you get the most bang for your buck. And it just so happened to coincide with I was having some of the best years of my career, 2006, 2007. That if I was going to put any leverage or have any leverage in my corner, it was then, and I needed to act on it. So that's kind of where my mindset was at that time, and kind of what led me to holding out for my money.
Yeah, deservedly so. Appreciate that. Yeah.
And Steven, that trend, the funny thing about it, right? In the 80s, right? Cornerbacks were the second lowest paid players on the team. DBs. The kickers were behind us. And then now, it was quarterbacks. Everyone had a running back. It was quarterbacks, running backs. Those were the money guys. No one else hardly made money unless you're a great linebacker, or a great offensive lineman, or a great receiver. But now, you look at the teams, and like you said, run by committee. I mean, during my era, I knew every starting running back on every team, or at least knew who was the main guy. But nowadays, like you said, it's run by committee. You know, and there's no I formation, there's no opposite, there's no split, there's no power. It's just it's all
LeRoy,
zone read
there's
now.
hardly a 4 minute offense. Yeah, and most like a passive fan doesn't even know that's a thing, right? So you had the lead, 4 minutes left in the game. Typically, the way the old school was played, you give it to your running back, you give it to your O line, you guys win the game for us. That's not even. I don't even know that's common knowledge anymore.
Yeah, yeah, they hardly ever run the football. Do you think it's because of the rule changes to the offensive line and the way they can block and the concussion lawsuit? Do you think that has something to do with the way the game is played now, or is it runs back to that old run and shoot that Detroit used to always
I
run?
think it's a
Everybody
little
start
bit of
copying.
that. I think it's a little bit of
Houston
you
used
had
to
to run
run.
and shoot. Fans want to see points scored. I think I think running backs, it's a position that gets hurt, right? So teams looking for insurance factors on top of putting up points. And then lastly, I think offensive coordinators, I think they all auditioning to be head coaches. So the more, if you can lead the league in points or you can lead the league in yardage, it gives you probably a more viable argument to being a head coach next. So no one gets head coaching jobs by having a running back carry the ball 40 times. It's just what it is.
Definitely. Steven, you played for a ton of different head coaches and OCs, and most of them ran different types of offenses, right? Like West Coast, Air Coryell, Earhart Perkins. Was there an offense that you felt most comfortable in, even though, a lot of them have the same concepts, just different language, verbiage, but was there one that you're like, "Oh, I feel comfortable here," or was it like, "Yo, just give me the ball, let me do my thing?"
I would say I was like going back to college again. Coach Erickson, I had two different coaches then. Coach Erickson, freshman and sophomore year. And then my junior year, I had Coach Mike Riley. Um, Both had NFL experience, both ran different NFL offenses. So because of that, I had a chance to play in a single back offense and I had a two back offense. Once I got to the NFL, the variations of it, to your point, it's they're very similar. It's just more about the old coordinator. Does he want the ball out in 3 steps from his quarterback? And then in
Mhm.
the run game, is it going to be gap runs or going to be zone runs? Once you kind of get that kind of nucleus, especially you being a D coordinator, once you kind of understand that, it kind of makes it real easy kind of to bunch your plays together to learn the playbook and get a feel for it. I was just talented enough that I was comfortable being in a single back or two back. Two back, more of a headache at the end of the games, but single back for my talent wise, it put me on some matchups against the linebackers that couldn't quite keep up with me.
Definitely.
Steven, the thing is, let's say I'm a grind it out offense. I'm gonna just, Woody Hayes. I'm gonna grind it out, grind it out, grind it out, and play the ball control. Then I play against an offense that's 10 plays and score. You know, it's like
Yeah.
which one you want to be? You are an offense that takes a long time to score, or an offense that can score quickly and then put the game back in the defense's hands. You know,
Yeah. Uh, to your point, if you go 10 plays to score, you're giving your defense time to recover. But if you're going 10 plays, you're putting them 10 plays and getting field goals, and your defense is not, able to recover or keep their offense from scoring, you're in trouble.
yeah, in trouble.
Yeah. I wanted to ask I wanna ask you, Steven, I grew up playing Madden, and Madden '05, '06, '07, '08, those were like prime years for me right then. So, it was always like a cheat code playing with you because, your truck stick was like 99, just running everybody over. So, uh, really just wanna kinda hear what your mindset was every time you touched the ball. Like, was it, I'm bigger than you, I'm just gonna inflict as much pain on you as I can, or, what was that where did that mentality come from?
No, actually, well, the mentality came from my father. I mean, I was playing since I was 7, so it was like I wasn't allowed to run out of bounds early in life. So that kind of give you a little premise about how I started. But I would say my style came from actually just opposing my will. I had enough wiggle. I had a good enough feet that I could get in and out of holes. I can make a good jump cut, and so I could set a guy up. He's expecting me to, how to just run down the middle of him, but I could set him up and beat him on the edge. But then there's times, to LeRoy's point, where you just want to ground it out, and you got to just impose your will. So my style to you, the way I played with it was I was going to pose my will. Whatever I will to do, what at that moment, third down, fourth and goal, whatever it was, whatever I needed to do, I felt comfortable and strong enough to do it.
Hey, Steven, let me ask you a question. Now, how did you come up with your number, man? That's an odd number. That's like a Sam Cunningham number, right? I mean, how'd you come up with that number you chose, man? How come you didn't choose an OJ number or a Dorsett number or a Jim Brown number or one of those kind of numbers? Why'd you choose your number?
Yeah, so growing up, I wore 34. I was a huge Walter Payton and Bo Jackson fan. Those two were my guys. So both number 34 wore that all through, all the way up to college. But then once I made it to the NFL myself, I kind of wanted to go on and leave my own footprints or fingerprints on the game. And I chose the number 39. I'm as strong. believer in Christ. I'm a God-fearing man, and 39 represents 39 books in the Old Testament. So it was a way for me to bring my faith on the field. Um, didn't have to do a lot, didn't have to say a lot. Just felt like it represented me, and it was going out there, and I was able to do it in a way that, like you said, it stands out. Not too many guys wear 39.
Definitely. Steven, I want to ask you, it's 3rd and 3, and you're gonna ice the game with a first down, right? Similar to that 4-minute offense type deal. Everyone in the building knows that they're handing you the ball. What run concept, what offense, what personnel group are you calling in that situation to close out the game?
Well, if you want to be real technical, like who are we playing, right?
Yeah.
True,
And
definitely
who's the
true.
running back?
Yeah, right. I would say, I'm going to go inside zone. And if it's single back, even better. I trust my eyes. I trust my feet again. Um, getting the defense to flow one way, finding that backside cut, or you get narrow and riding the wave of the blocks of the O line. It gives you a two-way go on a 3rd and short. And if you get them in the right personnel, let's go nickel or dime. Now you got only 2 linebackers in the box that are probably bigger bodies. Where if you go, a traditional two running backs, fullback running back, you're probably going to get a 3-4, maybe get an 8-man box. So setting up my defense, I'm going to go with the personnel that you're going to think pass. I'm going to run inside zone, given my vision and my speed and strength.
Hey,
That's
Steve,
cool.
let me ask you a question too. Okay, what is 3rd and short nowadays in the NFL? When you bring the heavy package in, when you do that 3rd and inches, it's not 3rd and 2
It seems
anymore.
like it now, yeah. And you're going to lose out to the tush push now. So yeah.
Oh
No,
yeah,
you're right. No, you're at 30 inches is probably the only thing that's considered 3rd and short.
that's wow.
I
Um,
mean, coaches throwing 4th and 1. You're like, whoa, wow.
Mhm. Was never a thing before.
Yeah.
uh, I want to ask you, kind of going back to Oregon State, because I mean, and a lot of things have happened for you in the last couple of years there, and you got your bachelor's degree, and so I have a couple questions for you about that too. But so you got your bachelor's, you got inducted to the Hall of Fame there, in Oregon State. If I'm not mistaken, you're on the foundation or the board of trustees, and so it sounds like it's the school that keeps giving. So really, just you know, want to ask you about your first off your bachelor's degree. Like, what was the decision to kind of go back to school after about 16 years or so to finally get the degree?
So in 2001, 2004, when I decided to forego my senior year, it was a conversation I had with my parents, and I promised my mom that, however long this NFL thing works out, I'll finish my degree. 12 years later, to your point, I decided to keep my word and go and finish my degree for my mom and dad. It was important for me. It was one of those things that my mom and I really reference her a lot. My mom and dad are together, but I reference my mom and dad a lot because my mom was the person that was the driving force behind me. Um, Many nights staying up, homework's not done, got to get it done before going to bed. And it was those long nights that she just kept instilling in me just to become a good student, become a good, hardworking person that gives back to the community. And to do that, you had to get an education. And she always just mentioned it just about giving back, giving back. So it was important for me once I graduated. I mean, once I retired, to go back, keep my word, and graduating, present her with that diploma. I can't say what the feeling was to actually put that in her hand. It was it was one of those things that if anybody cares enough to do something for their parents, it was that moment for me, and it just really brought everything full circle.
That's awesome. Yeah. Going off of that too, like you started a couple foundations in your time as well, and I was looking at your bachelor's degree in human development and family science. So it's just, and you kind of answered this a little bit, talking about like the reason why with your mom, but connecting the dots there, it's like, it sounds like something that you're really passionate about is giving back and, helping out others that are in, tough situations. So like, well, I guess my question would be like, what drove you to start those foundations? And, is that kind of like the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I think LeRoy could answer to this too, as well as like anytime you're able to accomplish a dream or a goal, and you know what that feels like, and you're able to accomplish it, you want other people to get that same euphoria. You want people to feel that for themselves. So, giving back in a way of helping people become better versions of themselves, finding a passion, finding a career path, or even just finding a community where they can feel love. It's one of those things that I feel a great deal of fulfillment. So it's an area where I don't need to be on the cereal box, or so to speak, but it's a way for me to just be amongst the community, be
Mhm.
normal, but at the same time use my platform and use my talents and help them give back.
Awesome.
You know,
And
hey,
one
Steven,
last oh, go ahead.
that's one of the great things I love about you, man. I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. Hanging out with you, you went to kindergarten like I did. You were nobody in kindergarten. You were nobody in sixth grade. You're nobody in eighth grade. And in the college you started being somebody. Then you got to college, you start being somebody else. And then the pros, now you're supposed to be different. You're supposed to be, aloof and not talk to people and not be friendly to people. Not, you know, you got like people. A lot of the guys, they get up there and they act like they didn't grow up like I did. They act like they're different and better than everybody else. And what I love about you is that, man, anytime anybody comes up to you and says hi to you, you treat them like you've known them for a long time, give them the utmost respect, and my hat goes off to you, man. I love it. That's what I love about you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Last thing about Oregon State that I want to ask you is, I see that you're giving the commencement speech this year. Is that right?
I am June 15th.
Awesome. How are you? Let me ask you: have you started the speech? How are you feeling about that?
I've come up with some framework. I haven't completely written it out. My goal is to get it done this month in April, allowing me to have a little bit over a month to fine tune it
Mhm.
before the big day. But it's a tremendous honor. One that even our first lady of Michelle Obama, when her brother was the head coach of the basketball team, she had given a commencement speech. So to have that kind of speaker in the past, and then to have me here coming up here in a couple months, it's a tremendous honor. I don't take it for granted. But to your point about Oregon State and my affinity for it, they continue to provide me more opportunities to get bigger and better, and each and every time, I try to jump at it and make sure that I come through for them like they have for me.
It's incredible. It's awesome.
I want to bring it back to football. I'm gonna bring it back to some scheme talk. I want to talk pass pro, and it's something that all running backs have to do, obviously. But for me, at least, it was the least fun part of playing running back. But I always hear backs talk about the jump from college pass pro to NFL pass pro. Did you experience a sort of kind of learning curve or difficulty picking up the NFL pass pros?
For sure. Yeah. Hey, you're right. It's the biggest. It's one of the biggest learning curves, but it's one that you have to actually get down first before a head coach or an offensive coordinator trusts you. You're protecting typically the highest paid player on the team, and you often are protecting his left side or his blind side. So being able to be good at pass pro, being able to not only understand the schemes but be stout in it and fight these bigger guys off to allow the play to develop downfield is important. The first thing rookie running backs need to be able to prove. So I did go through the learning curve. You can't see it now, but I have stitches right here. A linebacker, his name was Chris Claiborne, played at USC.
Hmm.
Um, we were doing pass pro in practice, training camp. I didn't get low enough. I didn't get down. I'm a taller guy, and Chris is actually tall too. And I got the crown of his helmet, split my chin open. It was like, all right, from now on, I'm gonna be getting low, and so stories like that, you quickly learn to adjust. Not only are guys um, able to win with their hands in these combats, but I mean they get you on the edge, man. They're fast enough to do these spins. Dwight Freeney. Think about my era. You had some of these guys that had these unbelievable spin moves on top of their speed and strength. It could put a running back in harm's way.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask, like, you're the Rams all-time rushing leader, and the Rams have had some Hall of Fame running backs. like Eric Dickerson and Marshall Falk. So I really just, what does that mean to you? Is that like something you like hold dear to yourself, or is it just like, hey man, you did what you had to do when you're on the field, that kind of thing?
No, I think anybody will tell you. I mean, even Kyron right now, Williams, he'll tell
Mhm.
you. Once you're drafted by the Rams and you play the running back position, you know that is a position that comes with a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
just being honest with you, you mentioned the two great Hall of Famers, but you have guys like Todd Gurley.
Mhm.
You even have some Lawrence McClutchin. So the list goes on and on from greats to play the position, that wore the Rams helmet, and it's for me to be the bell cow over career rushing. It means a lot to me because of a lot of the running backs I looked up to that came before me, and a lot of the running backs that now wear the helmet I root for because I know the pressure that put on them to perform.
You talked about your time in New England before, and you said when you got there, it wasn't anything like you ever experienced in the NFL before. What specifically can you remember about maybe their preparation or their culture that was so much different than Atlanta or St. Louis?
I would say that culture was, they have a slogan up there at the time with Coach Belichick was "Do your job," right? It was like do explicit your job, but in doing your job, it sounds very fundamental and elementary, but it's one of those things that most guys try to do too much. We're all great athletes. We always want to like seize the moment, and in New England, they really just preach, know your assignment, do your job, trust your teammate's going to do his, and win the scenario, win the moment. And Coach Belichick really just coached on different, this is here's a scenario here where we're down by 4 points. We have, we only have 60 seconds or 90 seconds to score, right? Or then you go to a sudden turnover, quarterback throws an interception or fumble happens, defense on the field, we're on this side of the. So all these scenarios will come up in practice that when you get to the game, it just naturally happen. And a lot of times previously for me in experience, these scenarios of football will only be taught if it happened against the team you're getting ready to play, right? Where Coach Belichick and his staff just got you ready for scenarios regardless of who your opponent. You just don't never know when you get an onside kick and now you're on the 35 and you can take a shot, and
Hmm.
the defense is they're on their heels, they don't know what they're doing, and substitutions coming in late. So all these little scenarios of moments they actually routinely practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and didn't just wait because the team that they're getting ready to play just had this happen to them previously.
Hmm. That makes perfect sense.
I want to ask because I know you played in the league during era where like defense was legit. You had the Ravens, the Niners, Steelers. So is there any team that you ever had to go up against, or just like a specific player that you're like, oh, this dude could hit? Like, usually you're inflicting the pain on some people, but
Yeah, you're right. The teams you mentioned all are worth mentioning and historic, but I
Mhm.
think just go to my division, NFC West. You have Patrick Willis, who led the 49ers, who's getting ready to go into Hall of Fame. You had Seattle, you had the Legion of Boom,
Mhm.
that great defense, that those secondary guys and their linebacker crew really made it tough on me on Sundays. And then Arizona Cardinals, they always sneaky had a top 10 performing defense led by a safety named Adrian Wilson, and then they had a D lineman named Darnell Dockett. Carlos Dansby too at linebacker. So to your point, my era of football, a lot of teams to be known for their defense, particularly NFC West. They had to stop me, Marshawn, and Frank Gore. So there were some grueling matches. There were 6 games that you knew for sure that Monday and Tuesday was not going to be one that's just going to be just chilling.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen your documentary that you had during those times, and you would go home, do the ice bath, then sleep in the tent just to recover from some of those games, and they were all
Yeah.
low scoring games too.
low scoring games, and like you said, bruises. So I had to jump on my information, try to get ahead of that early.
Definitely. I want to talk about when you went to the Patriots, you were able to play in that AFC Championship game in 2015 against the Broncos. It looked like you on that, I think it was maybe the second or third drive of the game, you ran maybe an option route or choice type route, took them down to the 1 yard line. TJ Ward hit you a little late, if I might add. And then bowled into the end zone for the touchdown there. Do you remember what the play call was for the touchdown?
I do not. I don't. But I knew it was a play specifically for me, though. It was
Definitely.
yeah. They definitely called for me to punch it in. Yeah.
And I think they had an offensive lineman playing fullback right in front of you as well. I think it was David Andrews or something. But yeah, that was a fun little sequence of plays for sure.
Yeah, we were rolling, man. We started off early in that game. Looked like we were going to run away from it. But that defense, Von Miller, he had a hell of a postseason run that year. So, they pulled it off on us. We like to think that if we had that game in New England, it turns out differently. But we were in Denver.
It was a generational defense.
Yeah. I did want to ask you about your, retirement and like what was that transition like out of the league? Like I know a lot of guys have a hard time with that. Did you have something like lined up right out of the league? What was that
Yeah,
experience like?
you brought up earlier in the interview. Anyway, I knew when I retired, I was going to go back and finish my degree. I
Mhm.
felt that not only I would be able to keep my promise, but it'll give me some time to kind of figure out what's next, those next steps for me post career. And
Mhm.
it did exactly that. It allowed for me to, not have to feel rushed into finding who I will become outside of the helmet, or who I would become outside the helmet. But it also allowed for me to, just cherish all that I was able to accomplish. Because when you're in it, you're in it. You don't think about all the things, the stats that you're racking up, the wins, some of the tough losses, the friendships made, all of that just a blur. But then once you're able to step away from it, you can reflect on it.
Sweet.
I want to ask you too, since you were in St. Louis kind of '04 through, '09, that was the height of St. Louis rap era. Do you have
It
any
sure
cool
was.
stories of hanging around, Nelly, Murphy Lee, those type of guys?
I've definitely been in their company, but I don't have any. I don't have any crazy stories. Man. I was disciplined. And thank goodness you didn't have no TikTok. So even the times I did let my hair down, hopefully there's no footage.
I
Oh,
feel that.
But you're right. That was a good era for St. Louis hip hop. You're right.
um, just one last question. I want to ask you, like, is there anything that you want to promote? Like, I know you have a couple foundations. Anything you got going on we can share with with everyone who listens?
Sure. All the viewers, listeners, um, here in Las Vegas, very passionate about trades, and me and my business partner here, we started a barber school, the original barber school here locally. We've been open, coming up on our second year anniversary on the 19th of April, and with that, in these last 2 years, we've been able to put out over 80 professional barbers. Um,
Sweet.
our school is completely 100% full. New students won't be allowed, or we won't be able to accept new students until July of this year. So anybody out there looking to be a barber, or you may have family members looking for a career path change, and if you're in the Las Vegas area, or you maybe just in your hometown and you haven't thought about it, but barber career is one that I truly um, love to help promote. One, I love to see young people, male and female, grow in their passion for the art of it. But it's one thing also here. We call it the original barber school, and we have the original barber shop. But we named it original because we believe each and every person should be happy and proud of who they are, and don't have to feel like they have to be anybody else. They're more than enough.
It's awesome.
So cool.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you guys.